Joining me now is Florida Congresswoman Cammack, along with Texas Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne. Ladies, welcome to you both. First question, as strong conservative women, what's your take on the conduct of Kamala Harris today, her cackling in the face of being unprepared, in my opinion, and deferring U.S. policy to the Polish president? Congresswoman Cammack, you first. What do you make of that?
You know, it's pretty disappointing, but more than that, this is unacceptable. This is not the conduct that the Vice President of the United States is expected to display. When she gets in front of a microphone, she speaks on behalf of the United States of America. And I can speak from both a woman in politics, a everyday American, and someone who is absolutely stunned. I can't tell you the calls that we've received. The cackling is clearly a sign of her being uncomfortable, really, truly unable to form a complete, coherent thought that is rooted in principle or sound policy. The fact that we have the Vice President of the United States deferring to another nation on a debacle that we should be leading on speaks volumes. This isn't Democrats in disarray. This is Democrats in denial. They couldn't run a lemonade stand at this point, let alone the country. It's time that we get firm, conservative, thoughtful, proactive, pragmatic leadership in Congress to give the world, really, the leadership that it needs more than ever.
Congresswoman Van Duyne, the Biden regime sends Kamala Harris over there in the middle of a war zone, and she is asked about U.S. policy, and all we're treated to back at home is uncomfortable cackling. Obviously, she's unprepared, as she is in almost every situation we've seen this woman in. And then she defers a question toward U.S. policy to the Polish president. I'm gobsmacked.
Well, you should be. I think the rest of the world is. When you look at what's going on right now, when you looked at our botched exit out of Afghanistan, and you see what that position that has put Israel and other countries in the Middle East in, you look at what's happening right now with Ukraine, the weakness that the U.S. has shown. You have a commander-in-chief who is incompetent, incoherent half the time, and exudes weakness. And on top of that, now you have a vice president who doesn't even know American policy, who goes and she tries to play cutesy. There's one thing that we know. When you look at terrorist organizations and terrorist leaders like Putin across the world, there's one thing that they understand, and that's strength. That is not at all what the U.S. is exuding right now. It's weakness, it's silliness, it's lack of coherency and consistency. We are a strong nation. We have amazing representatives and we have amazing people that we represent. And it's time that we grow up, that this administration admits where it has shown its weaknesses, where it has had failed policies, not just in the Middle East, not just in foreign policy, but what's happening right here in our country on our borders. They need to admit that the failure that they have had, starting with Biden's first day in office, when he canceled the expansion of the Keystone Pipeline. Up until that point, we had a strong administration. What's happening in Ukraine right now would never have happened under the Trump administration because we had strength at that point, strength in that seat. But we also had something called independence on energy. Not only were we able to provide our energy for the U.S., but we were actually able to export to other countries so that they were not reliant on these foreign hostile nations. And right now, Biden is not only forcing us to use our reserves, but he's also begging other countries for oil when just 2 years ago we were energy independent.
Yep. Congresswoman Cammack, I want you to weigh in on Joe Biden's sanctions on Russia and also European sanctions. I was speaking on background to some of your colleagues. They worry openly that China is backstopping Russia with money China gets because Congress has failed to move U.S. supply chains out of China. In other words, American money is being used to defeat European and U.S. sanctions against Russia through Russia's ally, China. Now, since Kamala Harris seems to reflect the collective intelligence of the Democrat Party, what will the Republicans do to stop this if they get back in power after the fall's election?
Well, first, talking about the sanction, let's be honest. these sanctions aren't the mother of all sanctions. They're doing very little. These are half-assed measures that are doing very little, if anything at all, to hold Putin in check. If you look at what the intelligence community showed us last year, we have known for a long time that Putin was conducting these missions to build up the military hardware, to have a troop buildup on the border. The intelligence community was spot on for months and months and months. There has been no surprise to anyone in the intelligence community or within the Five Eyes. You take a look at the response out of the Biden administration. Back in November, there was lethal aid authorized. They sat on it. When we had an opportunity to employ swift banking sanctions across the board, they blinked. When you look at the rest of our partners, they were looking to us as we're looking at them saying, what are we going to do? The world needs American leadership, and they need strong leadership. And Biden has continued to, again, half-ass these measures. One oligarch, not all. Not everyone, when it should have been a blanket, hammer down, no exceptions. This is over, and he should have done it before the strike. That's the key. He said, oh, if you do this, we're going to fire back. Everybody knows that Biden's weak. We are in this position in part because of his weakness and his projected weakness abroad. So the sanctions have done very, very little. You look at the Russian oil ban that was voted on yesterday. It's a step in the right direction. But when you read the actual text, there's only 45 days until it kicks in. And even then, the president has the ability to omit certain contracts that are already existing. Give me a break. And if you look at what we need to do moving forward, one, we can stop by not giving China our intelligence reports, which they turn around and feed to the Russians. That would be a good first.
Thank you.
And beyond
thank
that,
you very much for saying that.
We need to get the Chinese, the Chi-Com technology out of our supply chain. How about we start getting serious about opening up our energy production here at home? How about we get serious about pharmaceutical manufacturing here at home? These are the things that we need to be doing.
I want to let Congresswoman Van Duyne jump in on this too. Because we're quickly running out of time. Congresswoman Van Duyne, American money going to China. China sends it over to Russia to beat American and European sanctions. I mean, really, come on.
This has been planned, and this is not by mistake. This has been planned since the Obama administration. Obama had said that he had wanted to take the climate control seriously. That was the #1 issue. I'm telling you right now, working families right now that are paying $7 for a gallon of gas in California are not thinking about that. Kat is exactly right. We need to expand our energy opportunities in the U.S. What we have seen this administration do is systematically shut them down. They've gone to war, regulatory war with our oil and gas manufacturers. They have slowed down permitting. They have slowed down the export of LNG to other nations. They've canceled the growing of the Keystone Pipeline, which would have brought in over 800,000 gallons of gas, of 1,000 gallons of oil versus what we're bringing in now from Russia, which is 600,000. So we are empowering, we are emboldening, and we are enriching our enemies at the cost of American livelihood and other livelihood and lives of our foreign allies.
Don't forget, too, ladies, that this administration put pressure on financial institutions not to lend to energy producers. It's another end around they're doing. Look, I've only got a minute left, so if you both give me 30 seconds. We have a trucker convoy encircling D.C. right now, but the biased press is completely ignoring it. So I'd like you to weigh in, if you could. How important is it the Republicans actually, and Ted Cruz was out there today. Ted Cruz jumped into one of these big rigs and one of the lead rigs and was circling D.C. in one of these rigs. How important is it the Republican Party get behind this so that the mainstream press can no longer bury this story? Congresswoman Cammack, you first. Congresswoman Cammack, can you hear me? You first.
Oh, there you go. There you are. Yeah, I think when you think about the trucker convoy, they stand for freedom. They are on the front lines of pushing back against these unconstitutional mandates that this administration has pushed, jab or job. And so I know for me, we've been in touch with our Florida truckers. We've actually got a plan to go see them tonight. I'm excited for that. And I wish that every American would get behind everyday blue-collar working Americans. It's time that we get the power out of the D.C. swamp and back in the hands of the American people.
Congresswoman Van Duyne, your take?
Yeah, if I was there, I would have hopped in a truck as well. The fact is that we do need to start pushing back, which is why I'm suing the CDC over these ridiculous mask mandates that they've got on planes. We have gotten to the point where we've become sheep. We have to start fighting back. I was elected to do that. I was elected in Text 24 to represent those people, to fight back and make sure that we're preserving their independence and their freedoms. We have got to start. The line has been drawn. I'm fighting. I appreciate Ted Cruz fighting, and I appreciate my colleagues that are pushing back to make sure that Americans continue to be the land of the free.
Congresswomen Kat Cammack and Beth Van Duyne, ladies, thank you very much. Appreciate your time and service.